Ladies and gentlemen, Monday night, 8 p.m. The summer hiatus is over and we are back. Summer holidays are in the ledger and we are here for the next few hours keeping you company, talking all things darts. Myself, Phil Bars and Dan Simpson. How are we doing, buddy?
I'm all right now. I think, like I said, having a break isn't a good thing. We were just having a chat before we got on, everyone, and having a bit of time off isn't always a good thing. So we've had 2 weeks off. The week before that, those that were watching will know I was in a hotel, as I am tomorrow, because I'm constantly in a hotel at the minute. And I've just nothing worked when I come to assemble everything. Everything I plugged in, microphone, camera, screens, everything just didn't work. Like, restarted my laptop, got a message just saying, no, try again tomorrow, Dan. I don't know how it is. I nearly ended up, we were so close to me dialing in this evening's show on my phone, and we've got a cobbled together. I don't think I'm too crackly. I think the mic's probably all right. We've got something resembling a camera. I've cobbled it together. It's a nervous day. I think it's a panic. It's a panic up here. Newcastle. I'm actually welcome of a distraction this evening because Newcastle against Liverpool is never fun, ever, for a Newcastle fan. It's always a complete and utter disaster. It's the hardest watch of the year. So I'm a little bit glad to be skipping it and talking about darts instead with you, mate. So I'm pleased about that. How did you enjoy? You haven't had 2 weeks off, have you? You've just had two weeks of less to do on a Monday. That's all you've had.
Yeah, pretty much. Chat room is rammed already. Dal is in. How we doing? Kay, Bob, Owen, Brandon, how we doing? Paul is in. Warren, Marcus, Adi, Shelty, Wayne, Matthew, James, David is in. How we doing? Connor, how we doing? Look, it's mental, isn't it? And like you say, the darts never stops. It's just what we learn and what goes on and so on. And look, some of the players have had breaks. We've seen them returning today. There was some that then pulled out the Pro Tour, which surprised me. It's one of those things where this is now the start of the season for me, like the meat of the season. We've had the beginning, we've had the fun and games, but now this is where it matters. Do you know what I mean?
It is. I mean, again, I'm sort of pulling our conversations out into the public because we spoke on the phone earlier, didn't we? Or this morning, and we had a bit of a catch up. And I was looking while we were on the phone, looking at the PDC calendar, and if you take away all the other stuff that's going on, even that's gone on recently, women's series and CDC and affiliate tours, and out in Australasia and everything else that's going on, like. Every single week there is some, it's literally Pro Tour, Euro Tour, Pro Tour, Euro Tour, World Series finals, then Pro Tour, Euro Tour, Pro Tour, Euro Tour, Grand Prix, and we are in a very, very intense period of darts for the next couple of months. But then the peril and the prize money just keeps going up and up and up as these times go on. We're in. We'll go back to our conversation a few weeks ago. We're in major season for those that'll have it. We're in premium televised event. Premium televised event season. That's where we are at the moment. It's a busy time of year. We'll see people flying up the order of merit. We'll see people dropping down the order of merit. It's an exciting time for darts. Very exciting few months ahead.
Yeah, look, it's mental, isn't it? We haven't got a precise date, but the 2026 calendar is due. It's normally September, beginning of September, mid-September time that we are due.
The problem with that is when the calendar comes through, they've normally got venues on them, haven't they?
Yeah.
So you can't release the calendar without releasing the venues at the same time, and that there might still be some moving parts on some of them. I think we've talked about Premier Leagues and other things that. I don't know how set in stone everything is just yet.
I think.
You think it's there?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Because once you've got the calendar, you got people booking hotels and travel, haven't you? Like you're relatively stuck. I know we've seen it change before, but once the calendar's out, you're fairly committed, I think, aren't you?
I think it's done. To be fair, I think it's just a matter of putting it into place. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how you announce it, because look, we all know there is a change to the Premier League coming. Do you want to do that as a separate announcement, or do you do it when the calendar comes out? Do you know what?
That's it. It's whether or not you want, because what then happens now. What I don't mind genuinely is your calendar, almost like the calendar reveal, being like a big piece. That's where you can do 2 or 3 pieces of news, wrap it all up into one big thing, hide some of you maybe. because you can lose some of the stuff you might not want to make a big deal out amongst the other announcements if you wrap it all up together. But I think they need to make more of it. And I try and tell everyone as just a general helpful thing that the PDC calendar is mint because they allow it to sync with your calendars in your device. So when I pick up my iPhone and other devices, I go in the calendar, the PDC calendar's in there, and it's bloody clever. It's very simple. Really simple bit of technology, but bloody cool.
Yeah, look, it's great, and yeah, I'm with you. I'd much prefer to see, instead of one big calendar announcement, you go, here's the Premier League dates.
Yeah.
For next year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I think there is a case to be made. You can make a big deal of a calendar announcement. For me, you can do the calendar announcement, and that's half hour on Sky Sports News. With some people on there, and you do the annual announcement, and what are the talking points? Well, we're not going here, but we're going here instead. And you can, I think there's a lot of scope to do something interesting with that, to have an annual calendar announcement. But I suppose that the problem with that is it means you having everything done and decided by one particular date, and it leaves you not a lot of wiggle room to then amend and change things after everybody thinks they know what they're doing.
It is going to be interesting. I think it's Warren that says that I'll leak it anyway. I know what it is. I've known for a while. So, but yeah, look, I'm interested to see what next year looks like, because already this year it has been pretty chaotic, to say the least. I think that's a fair one. Now, we already know there's going to be an extra Euro Tour. I think we could see some extra Pro Tours as well. It's going to be interesting to see how this all fits in.
Well, I think what we know we're going to see more than ever, it's going to become part of the sport, and it's going to become as much a part of the sport as it is in other order of merit structured sports, whether that be tennis, golf. I won't bore everyone, because yes, these sports are very different. But what we see in sports where they have an order of merit structure is the players at the very top end of the game manage their diaries. You never ever had Nadal and Federer and Djokovic and Andy Murray and those four, turning up to every Pro Tour event and turning up to every regional event. And it just never happened. Never ever happened. But they always made sure that they had enough points on the tour to qualify for everything. They picked up the points that they needed to. They played in all the big events. And I just think we're going to see a lot more of that in darts. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I really don't. I think it gives more opportunities to earn good money to the players on the tour that are playing those events regularly. They are less likely to bump into one of the elite players. They get more opportunities to earn extra cash, which is good for everybody. I just think we're going to see more and more of it, and I'm absolutely not against it. I think it's a sign of a professional sport. We've talked loads about how professional darts is. I think when you've got people that don't have to go and play events because they don't need the money, it's a sign that yes, it might be only at the very top of the level, but it's becoming a more professionalized environment. I'm not against it, but I do think we will see a lot more of people managing their schedules.
Well, we've already seen that. The last 4 Pro Tours, we've had 4 brand new winners, and more than a couple of surprise ones in there, where Bradley Brooks Sebastian Bielewski, Jermaine Watamina, and today Jeffrey de Graaf, I would say 3 of those 4 are a surprise. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but
no, it's not. I think it's perfectly fine to say they're a surprise. It's not disrespectful. I think are they people that lots of people would have backed to win? No, to come through that field. Are they? Would you have got magnificent odds for it? Absolutely. But do they all on their day have a level that they can reach and clearly they do. And that's, we sort of know that about those players. We do know that if they play their best level and they turn up, then they've got it. They've got something and they can dispatch people. But yeah, they're definitely the big boys managing their diaries creates opportunities. And I think we'll then see more and more different winners, but then we see more and more different players qualifying for bigger events, things like the match play, things like the Players' Championship finals. We start to get a wider field in that, gives more people more experience of going to big tournaments. That I genuinely believe that it's a good thing. Probably not for people like you that attend as much as you do. Yeah, it's not good for the mileage on your poor car. Like, she's going to be battered next year.
What do you mean next year? She's already battered now.
She's poor old girl's limping along. But in terms of for darts in general, but what we are going to see is, and without a doubt, and we've talked about it in the past where we've had, it's going to be a struggle for non-PDC organisations. I know we saw it last year with the seniors, we saw it with the WDF, where they have struggled to find weekends in the calendar that didn't clash with something that the PD. It's going to be harder and harder for people to compete. Now, granted, they're not competing for TV viewers mostly, but a lot of them are, they are competing for people that are interested in darts and going along and wanting to be there. So I do think we're going to see more weekends where there's a lot going on and things are busier in weeks. But again, the more darts, the better, I think, for me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Even to the point where I think, and we'll chat to Murph about this, but we spoke about ranking and having to put TV titles in some kind of order, and I think this is even more significant now because there are a couple of TV tournaments where people have almost just written off. And they're not even going to, if they qualify, they qualify, but it's not the be all and end all. Do you know what I mean?
Not as important as it maybe should
be. We've already heard that a couple of people say, if I miss mine head, I miss mine head. It's not the end of the world. Where 3 or 4 years ago, missing a TV tournament would have been catastrophic. It was almost unheard of. Yeah. Where players now missing certain TV tournaments isn't the end of the world to them.
Is that a bit of a cop-out, though? Because we've seen some fairly big names miss out on some big tournaments, and the only way to really weather that is to sort of shrug it off a bit and go, "Hey, it's not too important." We have or do you genuinely think that
if it had been nearer, I'd have gone, yeah, they're just doing that. But some of these have said it 6 months before the cutoff.
It's not. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Are you going to play in these events to make sure you're there? No. If I'm not there, it's not the end of the world. So yeah, if this had been with 2 events to play, I get that. But it's like people are now going, is mine head important? 5 years ago, or whatever.
If you said, me, Philip,
is mine head important? You'd have gone, what? Missing a TV tournament? Are you having a laugh?
Yeah, so it's one of the best 3 days in the darting year. It's
even this week, players have turned down an invite to a TV tournament. It's like that's almost like what?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird, isn't it?
I get not going to a qualifier or so on, but to the point where we've got players now turning down invites, it's almost like, wow, the sport has come a long way. And look, I fully understand that the players, or certain players, can earn an awful lot of money during exhibitions. Arguably, they'd probably have to go and get to at least a final of the TV event to match what they're earning in free money, so to speak.
Yeah, I get that, yeah.
How we doing, Mark? Good to have you in, buddy. So from that point of view, it's absolutely bonkers how far the sport has come. Don't get me wrong, I love every minute of it. But like we say, to the point where people are like, it's not important, is crazy but brilliant that the sport has got that big.
Yeah, and that's like I say, I'm not against it at all. Like I don't believe that, and this people need to. They're going to have to move, because we are going to see it more and more. Like I say, like when we have other sports that are very much driven by an order of merit structure, golf, tennis, etc. And like I said, very, very different sports, but you do see players managing their diaries, choosing which tournaments are important and which aren't, or which are important to them and to not. And I do think it's important that people, move past that. Them deciding to skip a tournament is not disrespect. I don't believe it to be, disrespectful or, offensive in any way to anybody. I think because lots of players will look at different things. We've had players about all sorts of things, injuries that require surgeries, things that going on in their home lives. They might just want a bloody holiday with their kids. Like, there's all sorts of reasons why players might look. And some of them, if you're at the top end of the game and you don't need the money, you've earned the right to make the decision. Like, if you don't need to go and play there and you can go to bed at night knowing your mortgage is paid and everything's all right, then I just think you've earned the right. It becomes like all the other sports that are order of merit driven, and it creates more opportunities for other players who maybe wouldn't have got as far in tournaments, would have bumped into some of those big boys that have given it the swerve. Like we've seen in the recent Players' Championship finals, you get a few rogue winners, but are they still the winners of Pro Tours if you've got the 8, 9, 10, 12 players that are missing there? The odds significantly reduced, don't they?
Yeah, 100%. It was Gary who turned down the invite for the World Series finals. Marcus asks, what is a massive danger for the sport is that people can earn so much more money through exhibitions over TV events. Don't get me wrong, a lot of them can earn good money, but there's only a certain few that can earn better money for exhibitions than TV tournaments. Not all of them can't. Look, don't get me wrong. You can, if you go on an exhibition tour, if you are a mid-ranked player, you will earn good money for that weekend, but it doesn't skip the TV money.
Yeah, and make no mistake, guys, not all players are equally compensated for their time. Like, if you might see an exhibition with 8 players on, like, they're not all getting the same rate, I would imagine. I think there'll be some will command a higher price than others, but again, it is their pedigree on television or as a Premier League player and as a player that is what commands that price. That makes people want to come and see them. And if they are absent, they're not winning stuff. They're not winning trophies. There have been, for a lot of years, very, very few players who can completely, can stop winning, if you like, can stop winning on TV, not have the success that they've had in earlier parts of their career, but maintain that exhibition interest, maintain that people want.
Adrian Lewis is a prime example of that.
Yeah, exactly.
He is still one of the masters of the exhibition scene. People can't get enough of him, and he's not won anything for a while. Bless him. I love him to bits.
No, but there's not loads of players like that. There's not loads of players like that. And if you took some of the other players, big everyday names, that are on that exhibition circuit, and you didn't have them make a final for the next 3 or 4 years, they're not getting paid what they get. They're going to find that, that's going to significantly decrease because people won't be as asked about going to see them. It's as simple as that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Anthony is in, and Rob, how are we doing?
Mate.
I've seen our guest has arrived, so we are going
early. Easy.
Yeah, which I love. So we're going to get Mr. Chris Murphy in on the other side of this. And it is a pleasure to be joined by the one and only Mr. Chris Murphy. Murph, how are we doing, buddy?
Evening, gentlemen. Very well, thanks. How are you both?
Yeah, can't grumble, mate. Can't grumble.
Very
See
good, mate.
from your socials, refreshed, back off a lovely holiday and ready to attack the darting scene again.
Yeah, absolutely. There is no there's no way to manage the calendar when you're at the Modus Super Series, is there? So you have to take from time to time. So yeah, really enjoyed the break and back with a bang with that Champions Week, Rising Stars, and now into international pairs.
Yeah, look, the Super Series is obviously going from strength to strength as we see. And we'll start with the Super Series. Is that something that you're massively involved in? The move to Pluto, obviously, it was on the Super Series, started on Sporty Stuff TV, then went to no broadcast, YouTube only. Now it's got its own dedicated channel. How has that move gone along? Because we saw, obviously, you see it on social as well. There are some people that are skeptical of it and don't like change, but how has that all gone?
Yeah, it's huge for us, and I think it's also good sort of preparation for the future. I think everybody knows that streaming television is the future. So to be involved with a platform as big as Pluto, a parent company as big as Paramount, is really, really vital for a channel like ours. We're performing very well in the UK, #1 in sport on the Pluto platform, in and around the top 10 on all of their channels. And I think, if people, Pluto, we know is not as well known in the UK as it is over in America, for example, where a lot of people consume their television this way already. But I think, free streaming television eventually will replace your sort of pay TV models that you have now. So to be in there now with a forward-thinking, growing, an already big company is really good. And they've backed us fantastically as well. They do a lot of PR and promotion and marketing, and really pushed us on their platform, and so far so good.
Champions Night, obviously, it's the highlight of that coming together at the end of the series. How did that all go down and stuff like that? Did you enjoy the night once it's done?
Actually, this time around, I wasn't actually involved in the live show, so I enjoyed it. I was there in the venue, so I kind of enjoyed it from the back room, the office upstairs, where I mean, and was just overseeing everything. And the team did a fantastic job. And I actually thought this Champions Night, in fact, the whole Champions Week, was a star-studded affair in terms of the level of players that you can have at the Super Series. I think we pretty much had probably the strongest Champions Week lineup we've ever had, player by player. Obviously, there's no littler in it these days and things like that, but 11 of the players were really well known and had won or come close to winning things away from the Super Series. And you had one in Richard McKee, who was lesser known, but the Champions Night itself was fantastic. And again, dramatic, going down to a last leg decider. Jimmy Vansky missing the bullseye for a 1-2-6, and then Jeff Smith picking up the title, our first North American champion.
Yeah, look, it has gone strength to strength. And what are the plans going forward? Because again, the format, this isn't a criticism, but the format has been the same for a long time. Is that something that you're looking at and trying to evolve things, or can it move and so on like that?
It's absolutely something that we're looking at. I think that I've now shifted from the position that you guys are sat in and looking at, well, they should do this or this, and actually starting to realize how difficult it is and how long it takes to change things. Yeah. But we do have plans. We've got various different options that we've come up with, and it's about implementing them at the right time when all of the stakeholders involved are happy to do that. I personally agree, because I still have, that instinct as a darts fan to want to see a bit of a freshening up. And I think we've done that on a smaller scale in each of the last couple of years. So, for example, we managed to get the calendar into a year cycle, which I thought was really important. And in doing that, add the specials weeks. One of them's going on at the moment, the international pairs, which has been a huge plus. So we will certainly continue with that, and maybe looking at some different specials weeks as well. Whether the full Super Series format changes next year, or whether that's something that might have to happen a little bit further down the line, it remains to be seen. But those discussions have definitely taken place. We've certainly not been complacent and resting on our laurels.
I think those specials weeks do a really good job of almost sort of disguise. It's like a disguise format almost, isn't it? Because whilst the format remains the same, it it offers something very different, or you feel like you're watching something different when you watch it. So whatever that has been, whether it's pairs, whether it's double trouble, whatever that is, I do think it does a good job of mixing it up with those special weeks. They're a good addition, I think. Really good.
Absolutely, it breaks up the series as well, because we did used to just go, 12 straight weeks, Champions Week, and then Monday morning, week 1 starts again. Yeah. And I think that just, it was a bit of an anticlimax to get to the Monday, when now you're finishing the Champions Week and you've got something different to look forward to the week after. We've generally put a specials week in the middle of a series as well, just to break things up. And it also does give the opportunity to invite some of the more high-profile players more often as well.
Marcus asks, just over, you might not know, you might do. Do the special weeks have better viewing numbers than the normal weeks, or does it vary?
It does vary. I think often on finals nights, it can be dependent on who has qualified for the finals night, but also what else is on in the world of sport, of course. But in general, as a rule, specials weeks do get pretty good numbers. The Champions Weeks get pretty good numbers. Specials weeks and Champions Weeks are the best viewing figures, yeah.
One thing that's come up, and I hadn't even thought about it until I saw it on social media, week 12 to Champions Week, has it been thought about, or could you put a specials week in between to almost give that player that wins week 12 just a week to recover, and also give you guys a chance to build Champions Week? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it certainly does, and it is something that we did discuss actually for the current year. We discussed doing this for a couple of reasons. The one that you've just mentioned, but also for us, as you know, the Champions Week groups are worked out by the averages for those performing players. So it means that there are a couple of players going into the final week which sometimes don't know what group they're in. So that would have helped us give a week's grace for everyone. Now, the reason we went against it, I'll be totally open about this, is because we did a deal with the African Darts group for them providing 2 qualifiers per series, and one of those players plays in week 12. There's a huge financial cost for players coming over from Africa. We do try our best to make sure that the burden's not too big. So if they were to qualify for the Champions Week, they could just stay on the week after. And you'll see something similar with some of the players that have played in international pairs this week that have come from further afield will end up playing in week 1 next week as well.
No, I get that. And I'd say I hadn't even thought about it until I saw it on social when someone said, could you ask me? I was like, yeah, of course we can. It's not.
I think it's definitely worth sticking to. I get the argument, I get the suggestion that giving somebody a break, but yeah, when you think of everything you can gain from those international players, and it is a commitment. We talk a lot about the guys coming over, whether it be from North America, the challenges we've had about the Oceanic region players coming over and doing stuff. So yeah, I think the more that can be done to try and make it easier and financially more appealing to them to get over, the better. I think it seems a very sane decision.
Yeah. And I think it's very much sort of signifies our place in the darting ecosystem as well. We are not the professional game. We're not the PDC. We put on a professional standard event, of course. But the players that come are generally players that, are sacrificing income or spending money to get there. So, as you know, we pay every single player. There's prize money for every single player. And we try and make it as easy as possible for those who do have a bigger financial and geographical commitment to be able to come and play.
Well, you said something there. I mean, you've kind of beat me to it. And I was going to say about the darting ecosystem and where you are. And this is off the back of Barney being given permission to play in that seniors event at the Super Series. I'm guessing it's one, have you explored the possibility of asking permission for tour card holders to play? But then on the other side of that, say that permission was granted, does the Super Series then kind of lose its identity a little bit? Because at the moment, everyone knows what the Modus Super Series is. It's the next best platform below the PDC, where players use it as an incredible stepping stone to get to the PDC. The conversion rate of players that have done well at the Super Series and then go on to the PDC is right up there, where if it gets then players then come down, does it kind of get the waters muddied a little bit?
Yeah, I think, well, to address both questions, I think that's something that we would prefer to be led by the PDC on, because again, understanding our place in darts, I think one of the mistakes that maybe other organisations have done in the past is effectively drawn battle lines with the PDC, and that's not a battle that anyone's going to win. So I think working together for the good of the game is what's important. So if the PDC get to a point where they feel that the lower end of the tour would benefit from playing on the Modus Super Series, that's certainly something that we'd be open to having conversations about. I think we'd be stupid not to. I think one of the big debates in darts at the moment is, are the lower end of the tour better off not having tour cards?
Yeah,
so right. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe it'd certainly be a topic worth investigating. As for whether or not the Super Series loses its identity, I suppose that also depends on what that looks like, because in many sports there are tiers. And currently, I think I want us to sit in that kind of, if we're going to equate it to football, in that kind of championship situation. And I suppose it comes down to how many players do they want in the Premiership and how many players do they want available in the next tier.
And whether somebody goes and starts a Super League somewhere.
yeah, exactly. And there's always going to be, maybe there is that element at the moment, maybe the Premier League or the World Series is that Super League, but they're also still playing at the top tier of professional darts. But yeah, I don't think it necessarily has to lose its identity. I think it would be a logistical nightmare. You guys were talking about the calendar before. If suddenly there are a load more players available that they can only play outside of PDC events, for example. But it's something that I'd definitely be keen on exploring and making work if that opportunity came.
No, I like that. Warren asks, is there any chance of a live lounge up north and have two Super Series venues almost, or is it Portsmouth and out at the moment?
I'd be a big fan of that, I've got to say.
Yeah, I mean, it would be lovely, wouldn't it, to take it on the road or to have it elsewhere. At the moment, I think we are probably going to be doing what we're doing best, where we're best for the foreseeable future. If we were to do something elsewhere, I don't think we'd be looking in this country. So I think whether that's, I don't think we're going to be replicating a 50-week calendar anywhere else. But I certainly think, again, just going back to the thing we have, if we want to be the second sort of tier behind the PDC in terms of opportunity for dart players, then we seriously have to look at what opportunities we can provide to players outside of the UK or countries that you can fly to the UK in within an hour or two. So yeah, I think if we were to move, unfortunately, it wouldn't be Leeds or Barnsley or Newcastle. It'd probably more likely to be further afield.
How challenging would that be, Chris? Because you mentioned it really briefly earlier, and I just think it's worth highlighting because it's very true. It's a very professional level of production that go and what goes out through Pluto, luckily because of the format that it comes, I can watch it on my big telly. I haven't got to sit and it's not a little YouTube thing. I see, and it's a very, very professional format that we see, that we get to see. And I am not a geek. I don't understand the detail of which cameras are any good and all the software that's it. But how easy is that to, if you were to run an event internationally, if you were to go to Holland and do something, how easy would it be to replicate that level of production quality? Or is it because it for someone who's never been, it feels as if you've almost built a bespoke venue there for producing exactly what you want?
Yes, no, certainly that is the case. So we do it every day. It's set up every day. There's no sort of rigging and de-rigging like there is for all other darts events that obviously move around. So we're very fortunate to have that. And obviously the people that work there every day as well. So it's kind of like a well-oiled machine. So it would be more challenging to go and replicate that elsewhere. However, if we could, we still had to do that in the first place. I wasn't actually involved in the technical side, and I leave that to people that are much cleverer than me. But it can be done, can't it? And it can be done, and we've got high standards, so we wouldn't look to do something if it wasn't to the same standard as we produce at the Super Series in Portsmouth. And of course, expensive as well. So again, ultimately it's a business, and we would have to look at risk and reward and everything like that. But yeah, I think it's something that if we did, we'd look to do properly.
Hand in hand with the Super Series, obviously the tie-up and the connection with the ADC, and we've seen over the last 4 years the ADC go from strength to strength, becoming the powerhouse of amateur darts in the UK, and the Global Championship in obviously December this year with the highest amateur prize for the winner of £60,000. You must be excited for this project that's kicking off with the Global.
Absolutely, and I think that we are the perfect platform for that right now. But as a supporter of the ADC, I don't want them to be at the Live Lounge in a few years' time with the Global Championship. I want them to outgrow our venue. Our venue is perfect for what we do, and to have 100 fans or so in on a Saturday night in the sort of TV studio feeling to it, it's perfect for what we do. There are some events where we maybe wish we had a little bit more room, but for what we do, it's just right. For the ADC Global Championship, we're delighted to work with them, provide that platform. For them to be on our channel on Pluto TV, that's really good for us as well. We expect that to bring in decent viewing figures as well. And hopefully, maybe that will be a time where we can go and have an on-location broadcast somewhere else. I would hope eventually for their finals to be somewhere else. But look, while that's still a growing concept, it has to start somewhere, and we're delighted to be what I hope is the first chapter in a very successful future for that tournament.
Well, even early on, as you said, like you want the growth. £60,000 for the winner is some statement, even early on in this journey for the ADC, to send that. Look, you don't need to travel, you don't need to trek across Europe to pick up points. You can earn and play to a good standard and earn good money on your doorstep.
Absolutely, and I will say that I'm aware of some players that are definitely committing to that probably would have the opportunity to play in other tournaments at that time as well. So I think that speaks volumes, not just because of the money, but also because of the synergy that they feel with playing at the Super Series, being on Pluto TV, that they're getting their airtime from that. Jeff Smith, for example, Pluto TV is available in Canada, and you never sort of doesn't miss an opportunity to tell me how grateful he is and how good he feels to have been on that platform. So yeah, it's a really good thing. Obviously, the 3 Super Series champions this year will be part of it as well. So that's another pathway that we're able to give. And we were working it out. I think if you had a little type person who appeared in a year and they picked up 3 weekly wins, they won all 3 series and the ADC Global Championship, they'd be looking about £150,000 earning in that building. So yeah, there is really good money in amateur darts, and I think this is a statement. And they've built it. The people behind the ADC have built it. I'm sure the players will come, and I hope it continues to grow.
Yeah, no, 100%. And look, I love it. And like you said, I'm glad that the times have moved a little bit from like last year, because I remember speaking, I didn't think the Global got as much coverage as it deserved last year, because it was so deep into the PDC World Championship, because all eyes were on Ali Pali. Every media outlet was at Ali Pali. So I think last year it kind of got neglected, not deliberately, but just because of, like you say, pecking order, that everyone else was focusing on the Worlds. Yeah,
and that's something that we've worked closely with the ADC on as well. We want to make sure that we miss as much of the Worlds as possible, that our broadcast times when we do clash with the Worlds don't overlap as much as they did previously. We've actually brought it forward a couple of weeks, so there's another special week at the Super Series before we have our break for Christmas. So that will be directly up at the same time as the World Championship. But again, broadcast times won't clash too much, and it'll be a double start event, which is going to be very different to what's been watched at the PDC. So that, and the other thing is, of course, that the grand finals day is going to be held in 2026, early 2026. So that's not going to be stuck at the end of the sort of qualifying group stages. Everyone's going to come back for a grand finals after the World Championship, and it'll have its standalone place.
Yeah, Wayne wants to ask Chris about the session times, Monday to Wednesday. Any chance of a later start, or are the early Monday mornings here to stay?
Phil, you'll remember when Thursday and Friday were also at 9:30 a.m. And they were challenging after the Thursday night that had finished at 2, 3 a.m. and back on.
I slept in my car once because we overran so long. It's like, by the time I get home, I'll be coming back in. So I just slept in the car.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, look, everyone's aware that the reason that the Super Series is on at the times that it's on is to not clash with other sports, and that the people that are involved have got content available at different times. So at the moment, there are no plans to change the time. However, if we were to change the format, then ultimately time changes would have to be inevitable.
Interesting. Nice little teaser there. I like that. Obviously, you yourself a massive darts fan, as you've just said. What have you made of the game and the landscape of the sport at the moment?
I think it's in the best place it's been for a long time. It continues to grow at the very top end. But I think what is happening in darts, and I know this firsthand from my current role, is that it is pulling everyone else up. Everyone's benefiting. Last week, for example, we had a Rising Stars week, which 16 to 21-year-old players. And the finals night was one of the best finals nights we've had across the board. Henry Coates in the final. The last 4 legs he reeled off in 115 average, took out 142 when his opponent was sitting on a double to stay in the match, and went on and won it from 3-0 down. So I think the big thing for me is that the influx of youngsters. I was having a chat with Vincent van der Voort when he was with us last week, and we were saying how maybe 10 years ago, Phil, you might say to me, "Oh, have you heard of this young player?" And I'll go, "Yeah, have you heard of that one?" And that'd be it. There'd be like maybe 2 or 3 young emerging teenage talents. Now there are 50. Do you know what I mean? There's loads of players that are producing incredible stuff. So I think the really exciting thing is how many more Luke Littler style players are waiting in the wings to have that progression. And, not all of them will do it, but some will. And I think the future is really exciting. I think that a lot of the players that are used to the old sort of way are having to learn to adapt. You were talking before about calendar management. There are a lot of players that were always shoo-ins for TV tournaments that suddenly find it difficult to make them. And I think we've seen today as well that an example of the Pro Tour situation is probably going to start to become a little bit more like tennis and golf, and where players aren't, going to all the Pro Tours, and therefore there are opportunities for other players to win them.
Yeah, no, 100. An interesting bit that you touched on there, the young stars, and me and Dan had a conversation on the phone this morning that the way darts is so popular, and that it is great that the youngsters are involved, because that's the bloodline to the sport. I completely agree. But also, is this kind of shifting as well? And I feel, and I might be wrong, but I also feel there's a negative undercurrent that young dart players are becoming like young footballers, where they're chasing this dream and they want it so much, which is fine. But the scrap heap is getting bigger, where we see, like, I've never seen so many kids with dartitis, so to speak, and that's pressure that because they want it so much from a young age. So although it's great and this bubble is building and building, do we perhaps need to look at the aftercare situation a little bit more as well? Because that seems to be getting neglected a little bit.
Absolutely. I think it's a very valid point. You'll know as well that one of my previous jobs was with a mental health charity in sport called Sporting Chance, who actually a big part of their work is dealing with footballers and other sports people that didn't quite make it. It didn't pan out how they wanted, and the effect and the impact emotionally and mentally on them. So I think I would agree that I've seen a lot of youngsters that have, burst onto the scene and then suddenly start to struggle with technique. And I think that there's probably a direct link with how well a couple of the young players are doing, and everyone thinking that they need to be that good already. I think there's a few factors. Obviously, supportive parents is one. I think they need supportive management who are very careful to sort of nurture and harness their careers. And the academy and coaching systems as well need to be looking at that. And I think that's the important thing, is that a lot of people that I talk to that are involved in academies are very much about letting kids play, like participation at an early age, and then when they start to see, the talented players come through, letting them progress in their own time, rather than sort of pushing them. I think it's absolutely right not to put pressure on these kids. And also another thing, I know that the PDPA has been a hot topic on this particular vessel of starting debate, and this is a really good opportunity for the PDPA to get involved in something that will have a lasting legacy.
Yeah, no, 100%. I completely.
It's a huge opportunity, and I think that where I end up saying it a lot when we talk about young players, and I mean specifically, under 18 players a lot in the darts world, is the risk that I always think exists is that lack of at the top end of the game. The PDC, brilliant for what they aren't a governing body. They are a promotion company that runs a promotion, and they aren't a governing body. And whenever you've got that, that big entity within that sport isn't the governing body. They aren't the FA, or they aren't the WTA, or whatever that would normally be within a sport. I think that's where the risk is, in terms of where cracks can open up, and you worry people fall through the gap. And I do think there's a huge opportunity for the PDPA to try and develop something to make sure that there is a big umbrella that can sit across the sport of darts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, something that's, while the Modus Super Series, the PDC are not governing bodies, effectively promotional companies that run tournaments. I think all of these parties involved do take their responsibility to the players very seriously. But I think there is a potential. I wouldn't say it's a gap yet, because it's something that's very new. So we'd have to see how things develop. But I think there's a potential gap where if someone like the PDPA don't step in and do it, then it'll end up being a business that does it, and then that'll come with a cost. And it needs to be some kind of darts body that is in charge of looking after player welfare at all ages.
Yeah. No, I like that. We've been talking about darts a lot in general, and the growth and that, and I know it's come up a lot, and we've been talking about, like you say, calendar management. We've got players talking about missing TV tournaments isn't the end of the world, depending what it is. I know you spoke about it on the Sky podcast as well, but do we need some clarity on order of tournaments, on what the pecking order is now? Because like we've had Michael say, if I miss mine, I miss mine. The same as Luke Littler said it as well. It's like what we said 5 years ago, missing a TV tournament was unheard of, where now they're like, it's not important, this one.
Yeah, again, not for me to tell the PDC what to do. However, as a darts fan, I would prefer it. And I would prefer it because I think it's important in an age when we're getting more and more new darts fans for them to understand the difference. Again, in my job now, I speak to a lot of people who have kind of got into darts due to the Luke Littler effect, if you like. And a lot of the questions they ask are stuff that could be easily clarified if we had that type of thing in place. Which event is more important than another? They see that there's if someone asks me that there's an event on ITV next week, is that a big one? And you have to explain it to them. Whereas if there was this kind of sort of clear classification of events, then no one would need to ask those questions. I also think that I completely understand the reason why there hasn't been historically, because darts was a minority sport, a growing sport, and it was important really in terms of, it's good business sense to make everything a big deal, right? But I think now it's grown. It's huge. We know where it is, second behind Premier League football in terms of Sky Sports viewing figures. So I think now is at a time where they can afford to do that. And I don't really see any downside. I don't think you take anything away from the events that might not be the gold standard in terms of the four sort of we're calling it Triple Crown or Grand Slam events or whatever you want to call it. But what you do is enhance those events. Yeah, they become an even bigger deal.
Yeah.
And I think that's something. I think it's about time that happened.
Yeah. I think you look at things. Minehead consistently sells out every single year. If you're not booked during the tournament before, you aren't going the next year. If they start to reclassify tournaments and it's ranked not where, at the others, it's not all of a sudden not going to sell as many tickets. It's hit that threshold, hasn't it, where I think they don't need to worry about things like that.
Absolutely, 100% agree.
Are you in the Triple Crown Club or not in the Triple Crown Club?
Definitely not. Yeah, I think you said you saw that podcast on Sky, and I think Emma and Bridgie were trying to bait me a little bit. But yeah, and just because I think it's something that has to come from the organisers, it has to come from the people who run those tournaments and put them on to determine which would be part of that. I think that the big debate is around the Premier League being part of it. But yeah, I don't think you can just kind of make that kind of thing up and expect everybody to go with it. So yeah, for me, Triple Crown is not something I recognise, Phil.
Look, the darts itself, you've been around it a long time. Where is the ceiling? How big can this get? Because like you say, the viewing numbers only behind Premier League football. It's growing in North America at a huge rate. It's growing in Asia and so on. Where can this sport get, do you feel?
I'm coming up to 15 years working in darts, and I must admit, for the first sort of 5 or 6 years, there was always this feeling. I don't know if it's something you had yourself as well. At the back of my mind is, when's the bubble going to burst? It's because that happened before. Obviously, anyone that sort of looked at the history of darts saw it being really successful in the 80s, and then that bubble bursting around the sort of 90s, and the PDC sort of coming out of the ashes of that, and then doing what they've done, which has made this sport incredibly big. And I don't have that fear anymore. I just see it going from strength to strength. And there are so many untapped. Actually, untapped is probably not fair, because we all know that the PDC lay the groundwork for the future everywhere they go. And I think we're going to see a real explosion of talent in Asia at some point. I think we're going to see the same in Australia, which maybe is one of the areas that's taken a backward step, but it's starting to get moving forward again. So I think when darts has, and maybe something you touched on earlier in the show, Pro Tours taking place simultaneously on different continents, then you can start thinking about maybe we're getting near the ceiling. But as it stands now, I don't think we're anywhere near it. And that's testament to the sort of vision that the people at the PDC in particular have had. And look, the bigger they get, the more space there is for people like us to fill that little level below as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Like you say, Asia, North America, we saw this year that Madison Square Garden, a record attendance for a crowd in North America. That I use America and Asia as the two standout because of the amount of people in them. And I look at the sports that I do well in there. And let's just take American football. If we can just nick 1% of that audience and can convert them to darts, that's huge.
Absolutely. And another CDC do excellent work over there. Another PDC are now on a American channel as well. So that will all help. We have Team USA playing this week. There's a lot of interest in them coming over as well. Alex Spellman and Jason Brandon. And despite all that, the most entertaining thing that I've seen in darts so far this year was the guy who fell off stage at the CDC at the American event. I don't think it was CDC, was it? No, but it was over in the US.
WDF event, yeah.
Owen Binks was refereeing, and shot when he saw him land on the floor. I thought that was, but yeah, I do think there's massive potential. If effectively out of the UK and then just kind of the roots spreading into Europe, darts has grown to what it has. Imagine how big it could be if you can replicate that in Asia and in North America. It could be enormous.
Oh, 100%. This is Chris Murphy, the darts fan. We're asking now. This battle at the top between Luke, Gezzy's in there. Will Michael get back there? How much are you enjoying the very elite at the moment?
Really enjoying it. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the match play. I actually said immediately after that tournament that often, and I don't know if you get this, Phil. Maybe you're the exception to the rule, but you can sometimes get a little bit of darts fatigue when you work in the sport 24/7, and then you're trying to sort of keep up with the majors. I'll be honest, I didn't watch every night of the Premier League this year, and maybe not as tuned into all the PDC events as I have been in the past. But I was gripped by that match play, looking forward to watching it every night, and that was because of just how good the battle is at the very high level, and how good the other players are that are maybe not at that level yet, but on their day can challenge those players. So I think it'll be interesting to see, because if Littler can find a level of consistency that maybe hasn't been seen yet, then he could dominate still, obviously because of his age. But I think where things are right now, a tournament begins and you think, it's probably going to be one of the two Lukes, maybe now Price as well. I certainly thought he was going to win the match play for most of that week. That never happened. But I think you at least go to a tournament not going, well, it's going to be Phil Taylor or it's going to be Michael van Gerwen, unless something goes terribly wrong. You don't know who's going to win it. And I think that's a really important part of enjoying sport, because unpredictability is kind of entertaining, isn't it?
Well, Dan loves to manifest chaos at every opportunity.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head there. There is nothing more boring than any sport. It doesn't have to be darts; it can be anything at all. There is nothing more boring than watching a foregone conclusion, is there? There is what we want to, as sports fans, we want to be shocked and surprised, and we want to be brought to the edge of our seat. And I think that the match play is a perfect example of where there are more and more players capable of bringing us closer to the edge of our seat now, even when they are, Josh Rock playing the way that he did at the match play. We know that there's potential among some of the other players that we've seen, Jan van Veen and Wessel Nijman, and we know that that's going to solidify at the top of the sport. And I just think it's always going to be far more fun, far more interesting, and it will bring far more players or far more people to darts. Because if you're interested in sport and you're a sports fan, then you can. I still subscribe to the view that you can watch pretty much any sport. As soon as you've figured out the rules, you can enjoy that sport because it's the competition that you enjoy. And then when I've seen people watching darts for the first time, which I have a lot of in the last 18 to 24 months, and loads of people who haven't seen darts before, what they're enjoying is it's two things. It's either technical brilliance, it's somebody averaging 109 and blowing things away and being very impressive, or it's what could be a very average game in terms of numbers, but it's that competition, isn't it? It's two players trying to best each other that virtually anyone can get into enjoying.
Absolutely, and I think actually darts ticks the two big boxes in terms of making it so watchable. One is the one you've just spoken about, that entertainment, that unpredictability, that competition, but it also does have that element of simplicity and familiarity. It's not difficult to follow darts. There are a lot of sports that you say you watch any sport if it's competitive, but there are a lot of sports that I've started to watch and go, I don't really understand this, and I'll give it a miss from that point. Whereas, darts I got into very quickly, I got hooked very quickly, and I think that's the thing. So, but people will quickly turn off if the same thing is happening. Yeah. It spreads to any form of entertainment, doesn't it? If every episode is the same, then you ain't going to stick around for the entire series, are you?
The World Championship. Now, we've been asking a lot of people this. Ali Pali, again, not going on general sale. 36 hours, there's not a ticket to be had. Is this the last year on top of Muswell Hill? Have we outgrew? I know you were around when we outgrew the Circus Tavern and everyone was like, you can't move. They did. Are we almost, or are we at that point now where we've outgrown the Brilliant Palace?
I think it's a difficult question to answer without saying where are you going to go next. I think that's where
that's the tough. That's what makes it hard, isn't it? It's very easy to say, yeah, it could be bigger, but it's very difficult to then provide a coherent solution, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And look, we people privileged, Phil. We've been backstage at Ali Pali, we've sat in the stands and on the tables and pretty much had access to that for a long, long time. And it's a tournament that we absolutely love and adore that venue. There's something special. You do get that feeling as you're going up the hill. that you're going to like a sort of darting mecca, if you like. And I think it would be a sad day if it were to leave Ali Pally. So it would have to be, it would be a huge call, and it would have to be the right thing, because what you don't want to do is find yourself in an enormous arena style venue that becomes like the Premier League and maybe doesn't sell out every single session. So yeah, I'm sure the PDC will obviously want to be looking at alternative options, because we hear every year from Barry Hearn, don't we? You could have sold it 5 times over and all that kind of thing. But I think, again, they will only make that call if they feel it's 100% sort of bulletproof, that it can't go wrong. And I think that's it, isn't it? It's when you sack a football manager, everyone can call for him out, but who's coming in to replace him? And I think it happens here with Ali Pally.
Before we let you go, Chris Murphy, obviously, we knew as the broadcaster to start with, you know, running the Super Series. Have you kind of given up? Well, not given up's the wrong word, but drifted away from this Chris Murphy, the broadcaster, almost? Because, again, watching it, we see you doing less, even at the Super Series now, because obviously I get it's busy, but behind the scenes and whatever. Is that kind of something that's gone now for you at the moment?
I wouldn't say gone, but I would say definitely less of a priority. I think that when I started out, I kind of had this, I suppose more people in any career, with this idea of, you know, commentating at the World Championship. I've been lucky enough to do that with TalkSport, and having this sort of really clear linear progression. But, you know, often life moves in directions where you don't expect it to. Having done sort of 9 or 10 years commentating on PDC events and other events where I've had to travel a lot, I'm quite settled now. I've moved down here to be near the Super Series every day. I go to work, and every day I come home and sleep in my own bed and all that kind of thing, and that's nice. So on a personal level, I'm very sort of satisfied with where things are at the moment. But the beauty of it is I still get to do that thing that I enjoy. You know, still can commentate at the Super Series. I'll still help out TalkSport if they ever need any help. But I don't have that pressure of being expected to be at every Pro Tour or expected to be at every event. And I'm quite happy with that balance at the moment. And also, again, Phil, you were around at Portsmouth when I first sort of took the reins there. And I'll be totally honest, I didn't enjoy it at all for a good 6 months to a year. There was a lot of kind of sorting out.
I can categorically agree with him.
Yeah, a lot of sorting out to do. And I thought, mate, have I made the wrong decision? But, you know, a lot of blood, sweat and tears and stuff later. I feel proud of what we're doing and rewarded by what we're putting out on a daily basis. And yeah, I think that I've kind of got that little bit of a feeling now of that's the direction that I want to carry on going in and be part of the growth of the Super Series. Well, almost, I think on my Twitter bio, I describe myself now as a part-time darts commentator. Very much full-time at the Super Series behind the scenes, but yeah, part-time in terms of commentary, and I'm very, very happy with that.
Murph, pleasure catching up, and it's great to have you on the show, mate. Massively appreciate it. Again, just your knowledge and the way you speak on it, and say just giving the Super Series a bit of a platform as well, so you can express what's going on down there, mate. So massively appreciate it as always, my friend.
No, I appreciate the platform. Thanks for having me on, and it's great to catch up with you guys anytime.
No worries. Everyone, listen to Chris Murphy, and we'll be back on the other side of this.
We need to get some longer ones of them. You keep using the shortest little clip. We might only get a good 30 seconds to a minute to run the gents out.
I'll tell you what, I love that from Murph. That was really good.
Yeah, top draw. Yeah, really interesting. Again, it's you know, you're doing well at the minute. Getting me some interesting people to talk to on this show. We've had some very good guests on recent, and it's a different viewpoint, isn't it? Because, you know, Chris is someone who, like, it's interesting because yes, he's a darts fan, and that comes through when he's speaking. It's easy to tell he's a darts fan. And he obviously is known and has been, like he says, a long time commentary, and he's done broadcasting, but he now has what I would describe as a grown-up's job as well. You know, he's got a grown-up's job, and he's got a proper job, still very much within darts, but, you know, and I found it fascinating to, you know, some of the some of the considerations, obviously, that he has to now think about, and the things he has to consider, and the decisions that he could make, but there's reasons why he doesn't. And really interesting. Really interesting to hear about both what's going on down in Portsmouth and also just generally Chris's view on the world of darts, because he's as big a darts fan as anybody, I think.
100%. Right. Whilst we were off, we had some World Series events. It was a good 3 weeks for Mr. Littler, wasn't it?
He did all right, didn't he?
He cleared up in, Shiana.
He certainly did all right. Yeah, back-to-back wins. Playing well as well. He didn't just go through the motions. He did play. He played well. I think that that opening game for him that he had in the first World Series event in Australia. Obviously, he was not unlucky enough, but that was the fact that he was drawn against Damon Heta is a big. It's a big game for Damon Heta. He's playing in his home country. He's gone back to Australia. He's representing a nation, and he must have felt a bit, I'd done too with that draw. But Luke tips up, averages over 102, plays very, very impressive, and it sort of went from there, really, didn't it? But he just did what we see from him so often now, just working his way through tournaments, playing some very good darts. And, if you turn up to a tournament and you don't play your very, very best, then he'll beat you. And you might turn up to a tournament and play your very, very best, and he'll still beat you anyway, because from Australia, he went on to New Zealand, and that semi-final and final was just, ridiculous doesn't seem suitable. For the 100, it was a scrape shy of 109 average in the semi-final against Gezi Price. Price averaging 103, getting battered 7-2. Like it was, and you sort of think, well, he's peaked there. How's Humphreys? What's Humphreys going to do with him in the final? And then he goes on averaging 115 in the final. And again, it's not short. That's first to 8, so it's slightly longer format than we see in the Premier League. When we see these big monster averages, but yeah, averaging 115. It is, quite frankly, ridiculous over 12 legs.
Yeah, and look, I've got to say, I thought New Zealand was better than Australia in terms of, I thought the venue looked better. I thought the atmosphere was better in New Zealand. How do we kind of make these World Series better in terms of, at the moment, and I'm not counting the Dutch one in this because that's just a glorified Euro Tour. I'm talking Bahrain. We had the locals were much better in America. We had some upsets there. They were competitive, but everywhere else, it just feels like it's been night one is an exhibition where we'll give the locals a game. And then night two is like a back end of an ITV tournament where we play quarter-final, semi-final, and final.
I think it's very difficult, isn't it? Because
I'm not saying it's easy, but at the moment
it does. I completely agree with you. But then the context is you are sending the very best players in the world. Like you are sending your elite players. This is generally the Premier League World Tour, isn't it? But barring those who don't want to travel that far. And they are playing against players who, many of which have never, or many, across the year, haven't played on the television before, haven't played in an arena before, haven't played in front of that many fans before. So any upset is very, very hard to produce because, like I say, you are playing in an environment that you're not used to playing at a level that's far, far away from the competition you have ever been used to before, against one of the best players in the world. It is the equivalent of taking, Sunday league teams and throwing them in against Man City. And then us all thinking, well, how can we make this more competitive? It's hard, isn't it? Like, because it's very, very difficult. Obviously there are different ways that you can structure it. One of which is to do more. Well, do you know? I don't think there is. I was going to have a go at it, and I just think, nah, it isn't. Like, it is what it is, isn't it? And again, that's why I don't buy the final. Like, I'm fine with it existing because, again, we go back to the fact, the PDC, it's not a governing body. It doesn't have to provide tournaments that adhere to the full structure of the game, and it needs to. Its only goal is to provide tournaments that sell tickets and get people to turn on their television. That is exclusively the goal, and that's what it needs to be and should be for a promotion company. So, I like the idea of driving into new markets with it. I do think that in some degree, it's not so much that it's not. Let's be honest. So what it is in Australia and New Zealand is, it's an opportunity for those fans in that country that live on the opposite side of the world to where virtually everybody, or virtually where all of the big televised darts takes place, gets to go and watch them. They get to buy a ticket and see Luke Littler and Luke Humphreys and Gezi Price, and it is a bit of just a world tour. It's a world touring exhibition. The fact that on day one we let the locals get on the stage and play with them, yeah, I'm fine with it. Like, great. But I don't think we need to masquerade it as being like a proper tournament, like that. Which is why I didn't really count it. When we were talking the other week about where you put different televised tournaments and is it this and is it that, like that one. I mean, I'd have it in. The fact that people talk about that, but then they want to have an half-hour argument about whether the Premier League should be included or not, I think is a joke. I think it's far more of a, like, it's far less important than something like a Premier League in terms of whether or not it's a pot to win or anything like that. I think it's silly, but it is what it is.
So in fact, I quite like this from Marcus. Yeah, I'd like to see something similar to what they're doing in that. I don't dislike.
Yeah, again, I have absolutely nothing against that at all. I think the more that they can do to create opportunities, and I like the idea that it gives players opportunities. When we had Raymond Smith on, he was talking about the lack of opportunities for players to play on stages, in front of crowds and things like that. And it isn't something that there's a lot of opportunities for. So when you can create opportunities for those experiences to help people develop and get better, then yeah, it's a great thing. And I'm glad that we do that. But to collude in the illusion that it is going to be in any way competitive is anyone who thinks it is kidding themselves. You over the course of the year, you might run. How many do we have? 8, 7 in the finals. Yeah. So across 7 events, you might get 1, 2 maybe opening round winners, average-ish ballpark. Someone said at the beginning how many's going to win up. A couple maybe, perhaps, because you have got it's Sunday League teams playing Man City. It's not going to be competitive. They're going to batter them all the time. Every now and again, something absurd will happen, like FA Cup, innit? That's literally what it is. It's like every now and again you get a rogue cup result, and you're going to get a player that's flown for however many hours, caught a bit cold, local turns up, crowd gets behind him. You're going to get it, but it's not going to be the norm. It's never going to be how things are.
So, are you saying that, in your opinion, there's not a way to level the World Series and make it competitive, or so on?
No, I don't think so. Again, somebody cleverer than me might have a great solution, but I don't, because of what it is, because it isn't a I just don't know that you can create the only way you can do it is to narrow the gap between the two groups of players that are playing. Like that's the only way you can make it more competitive is to narrow the gap between, which means you either have to use less locals, in which case then who do you send? So do you then just send to Australia 16 tour card holders? And you make sure everyone from a country, everyone from that region that's got a tour card goes, of which you've only got, Damon Hatter. But then, do you then send, your Premier League and your Premier League B team as well? Do you also send, Clayton and Peter Wright and everybody, and everyone that's all the Neely men from the Premier League? You could do that, but then you're sort of changing it and eroding what it is, and you're taking that opportunity for the locals to get on them and the stage and play. And I don't see a way that you can narrow the gap, because you have literally got the very best players in the world and a group of players who across the board, and again, I mean this with the greatest of respect because I'm speaking generally and there will be exceptions, but across the board, most of those players that take part on the first day across all 7 events don't have a hope of ever picking up a tour card. Most of them will never be a tour card holder and won't get close. Some will. There will be 1 or 2 here and there that have the ability to pick up a tour card. But most of the players that play that first day won't ever get. So then you're looking at like the best players in the world. It's not even like a piss easy draw, first round of the Pro Tour. These are just lads that county players. And I mean it with respect, but that's what they are. That's where it is.
So, again, you might not be able to answer this because North America, I see growth on the floor as well. That we're seeing, like some of the averages that we saw on the CDC this weekend were superb. How do we get the base level better than in these regions so they can start competing? Because that's what it sounds like, is they need to get the base better.
Yeah, well, yes, correct. Like, and that is the case. And there is potential for that. There's definitely potential for that in America, but we're not there yet. Again, we've had. It's not a secret how big a fan of the CDC I am. I'm a massive fan of it, and I think the guys running it do an incredible job. And I'm a really big fan of some of the players out there. But when we talk about those players, a lot of the time what we're talking about is whether or not they can reach a level where they could get on the tour and keep a card. That's the context at which we're discussing them. But then in the World Series, where we're talking is not, are they going to get draw? Are they going to meet someone else of a similar level? You're going to go and play Gezi Price, Luke Humphreys, Luke Littler. They're the people. That's who you're going to meet. So I don't know where we make that more competitive, because you can lift that ceiling. You can lift that ceiling in North America to whatever height you want, same as in Australia, but unless they've got 8 world-class players, it's still going to be hugely slanted onto the 8 world-class players that have gone. Yeah. This is the very, very best players in the world. Again, we see players posting averages that their opponents will never hope to achieve, and they'll walk off stage and think, "Oh God, that was a shitter." And then we've got players posting 115s in the final. the gap's just too wide. I think to ever have a scenario where it's anything other than, you know, a rogue cup, and it's a rogue cup result, isn't it? That's what happens. Is it someone's being caught every night the night before, bit of jet lag, whatever it is, crowd gets behind a local, all of a sudden, and it's short format. You know, shit, what happened there? I'm just going. We've seen it happen. It does happen. I don't think there's any way that you can lift the general competitiveness of that first day across the board. You know, and especially because we're not talking about Holland. You know, the Dutch Masters is like I say, it's an exhibition.
It's a glorified Euro Tour.
Of course it is, but only we get to pick who we think will sell the most tickets. Like it's. I mean, but if we look at like Bahrain is a good example. Like again, what we're looking at there. Yes, yes, we've got players in there. You know, this year, Ilagan, Breda, Zong, Lachlan Lee. We the players that we know can throw a dart. Players that we've seen do bits on TV in the UK, but again, they're players that we talk about in the context of, like, perhaps one day they could reach a level where they might be able to get a tour card. And that's as a group. And one or two of them might be able to reach that level. And we're pitching them against the greatest players on earth. It's just too far away.
It's interesting. I like it.
Warren does have a point, though. Like I saw, will say Warren does have a point in terms of, like, and this is and I suppose the baseline has to be this: is you have to make sure that the best players that you can field are playing. So, you know, if you have got an Alex Spellman who doesn't play, then, you know, you have made your field even less. You are already starting from the position that I've spent 10 minutes discussing, and then if you have a player that's within your top players and doesn't play, or if within your top 8, you know, who would be available on their best day, and he doesn't play, then shit, you're even worse. Then, you know, you're now into ranks number 9, 10, whatever, of what is already hugely skewed the wrong way. You know, don't get me wrong. It's like anything. I watch it when it's on. I'll watch the finals. Of course I will, because it's darts, and I quite like darts. And it's an exhibition. I like darts exhibitions. Like, but let's make no mistake, that's what it is. And when we see people lifting a trophy at the end, like, I'm just not buying it. And like the idea that is close, like the fact that people just include that as a major TV title, then want to have a discussion about the Premier League, I find hilarious, because I just think, well, how's that one slipped by? If you look at the players, that's comical like that. Like, if you've got a field of that, and sometimes it's looking at what people have had to do, you know, in order to qualify for the finals. It is often, you know, historically, like, largely laughable, you know, because we look at like, you know, oh, he's qualified for the final, has he? He has, yeah. Well, who did he beat? He didn't. But he did hold his throw twice. Like, and he's held his throw twice, and then he's made the finals for that. That's how you qualify for a final. Not having it, I'm afraid. Like, not having it as something, like, again, the trophy for the final is as valuable in the grand scheme of things as any one of those individual trophies, because the construct is the same, isn't it? Like, it's as valuable, whatever, you know, that trophy at the end is as valuable as that little palm tree is. That's exactly as that. It's exactly, they all hold the same importance to me.
Oh, I like that. We caught up with a few players recently. Let's play you a few clips and we can discuss. This one was a good one.
Really good. Is for the fans and bothered. For me, I know that I will be back up there. It's the idiocy of when you see people's comments online. So I missed out when I won the Worlds. I didn't play about the pros for 6 months, and you can see we're going to try to catch up once that. What they'll lose. We was like 820 grand in 2 tournaments. So it's a massive drop. And like you see Nathan's below me now because he didn't play in the match play. So it's not like you're playing bad. I know I'm not playing where I want to be, but it's just one bad tournament can drop you straight down. I lost, first round of the World. you lose 485,000 off your ranking. It doesn't help, does it? It's just one bad tournament and poor like schedule management. Well, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like managing your schedule. I did it poor when I become world champion. I didn't do the full year as much as I should. I just concentrated more on TV. And yeah, it bit me in the ass and the 2 years after.
Do you regret that decision though?
No, not one bit. I won the world, I was celebrating. But when I win it again, I'll do it the way like Humphreys did, the full year. Like you see what Littler, after he's winning now, he's having time away. And you need it, but I don't understand, so like Littler's point of view where he's fresh to the game, he should be bouncing everywhere. This is my A2 season. So it would have been my 60th when I won the world. So I deserved a couple of weeks out. If I win the world again, yeah. Well, I do believe I will win it again. It's just a matter of time and a matter of patience. And I'm not one for having patience. You've seen over the years the countless of losses I've had and bouncing back every time. This is just another stumbling block. It's just testing my patience, and we all know I've got patience for waiting for things. So I'll just get rid of this now. It's never going to disappear. I've got to learn to live with it, but the pain isn't as bad as what it was. It's still there. It still clicks. It still pops. The wrist is still restricted to the bending, as you can see. That's the first it goes, and it's one of them. It happens. It's about adjusting, and it's like just changing a standard flight to a kite flight to make it go fast. It's just adjusting a bit of my floor, and I'll be back.
Interesting.
I actually really like the way Michael spoke in that interview about the injuries and so on, and what needs to be done and how he gets back and everything. I really like that.
I thought there was a couple of very, very interesting little lines in it. The fact that he didn't hesitate or blink or giggle or anything when he said when he wins it again, I found really interesting, because that wasn't done. Like, and you were in the room, so you obviously know better. What it didn't appear in that interview was that when he said that wasn't contrived. That wasn't an in-joke between you and him.
That
wasn't said with a wink and a smile. That was him not thinking about it. He didn't have to think. He didn't think, oh, I'll say that. That'll be a good line. Like, his mindset is that he'll win it again. And when he wins it again, and it didn't, I thought that the lack of sort of
100%
thought that was in that, and that's just how it is, was really interesting. Yeah, good. Really, I mean, it's nice to hear. Let's be honest. It's nice to hear. It was a big miss. I don't think anybody who is a darts fan or just a decent person in general would have been happy that we had to have a match player without Michael Smith. Nobody wants to see that. Everybody wants Michael Smith playing at his best, and Michael Smith at the top of his game is good for darts. And it's no secret that the level that we've seen has been nowhere near what we expect. And also, and he hits the nail on the head, that the timing of things has been particularly badly. Is that when he has played well, he has played well in times when it just utterly didn't fucking matter, like at all. Like he's played well when he didn't need to, and when he really needed to grab a win, whether it be to get to the match play, whether it be not to lose every bit of ranking money from the Worlds or whatever that was, he hasn't been able to find it. So that the timing has been far from ideal for him. Coupled with the fact that the level has been way off what we would expect. I just hope it comes back. I hope it comes back because I think he's a big miss from that top end of the order of merit.
Yeah, and this one was good as well.
Yeah, like to do so well in the first year, qualify for Minehead, which is extremely hard. The players' finals to qualify for is one of the hardest ones to qualify for, and to make it to Ali Pali as well on my first year, and then for it all to crumble in the second year with everything that went on behind the scenes, yeah, look, I gotta go back. I keep going back until I get it back. And then I'll end it on my terms, not the way it was wrong the way it ended. It wasn't for me. So I get sleepless nights thinking that if I was to walk away now, what could have been. Do you know those niggly things in the back of your head where you're always saying, oh, maybe you should have gave it another few years. You were getting back into being healthy and different lifestyle. So I think there's still something to come. I reckon there's still something big in me in the game. Where that is right now, I can't say. But look, I'm playing super at the moment. You know what I mean?
I like that. I'll finish it on my terms. I love that from the Joker.
Yeah, I think it. Like, again, there's no secret how much of a big fan we are of John on here. No, but as a player and as a bloke as well. I was lucky enough. I was in Alexandra Palace for that debut match when he played. I was very, very close to the stage for that one, and he was incredibly unlucky. And he that entire tour card run for John was just. I talked a minute ago about timing with Michael Smith, and it was, we know players, and we talk a lot about the right things at the wrong time, and it was just so much for John. It was just the wrong thing at the wrong time, and it was, it produced just absolutely glorious darts right up to the point where it really mattered and when it was important, and then it would just couldn't find it. We saw exactly the same thing all the way through Q School this year, where he was arguably, for large parts, the best player to play at Q School, and didn't manage to get his hands on a tour card, and played superbly. But again, it was just the wrong time for things not to properly click together. But again, a pro tour with the Joker on is far better than a pro tour without the Joker on, for a number of reasons. So I do hope he gets the opportunity to reclaim that card and as he says, do it on his own terms and go and have another go. Because I very much believe that if John does get his tour card back and he finds that level and some consistency with it, then I don't think it's a case of him, scraping after 2 years to try and hold on to it. I think he's done that journey. I think he's learned a lot from the conversations I had with him. I think he's learned a lot from it. And I think if he gets the big job for John now is getting that card back. And I think if he gets it, I think he keeps it, not for as long as he wants it, but I certainly think he keeps hold of it. Certainly for at least a cycle. I think he keeps that card.
And we have a signed John O'Shea shirt for the office.
Oh, look at that! That's going to look nice on the wall. It's a particularly nice shirt as well, because we talk. I mean, boring talk sometimes. The true darts geeks that will talk a lot about even shirt like darts shirts. He says in his boring polo shirt. But we talk a lot about darts shirts, and I don't think that one gets the credit it deserves for being right up there with among the very best of shirt. He's always, and it is handy if your nickname's going to be the Joker, and you don't mind leaning into the Batman theme. Then you're gonna at least have some good source material to work with, aren't you? But yeah, very strong on the shirt front is Mr. O'Shea.
Yeah, busy weekend across the pond in North America. 3 events in the CDC in Chicago. Alex Spellman winning event 11, Stowe Bunce winning event 12, and Adam Savada winning event 13. Now, again, we talk about players that don't have tour cards. 3 of the best players not to have a tour card win events in North America.
Yeah, it's sort of good and bad, because you sort of look, you see those 3 names and you think, right, no surprises there, like that sort. But because we know how good they are, but then you've got 3 different players, so it's not just somebody dominating. There is definitely a mix at the top of that order of merit. They are continuing to trade blows with each other in these big tournaments, and I think all 3 of them wouldn't look. I firmly believe they are 3 players who probably wouldn't look out of place with a tour card.
Which players, Big Johnny? But yeah, obviously there is 1 weekend to go in North America before the Continental Cup as we head to Indiana, where places the Alexandra Palace Continental Cup, and then ultimately, because of the Continental Cup, Grand Slam spot as well. So that final weekend in North America is going to be massive for the North American boys. All eyes on Indiana. The road to the Continental Cup is going to be massive.
Yeah, and it is the incentive there at the end of it is so big, isn't it? Because it is, it's that spot at the spot of the Slam, that spot at the Palace is huge, especially because we know bigger field. In a bigger field, you have to have less quality in the field. It's just the way the world, which means you've got more winnable games. Like there are more winnable opening round games, and there are certainly players at the top of that CDC system who can win games at the Palace. And we've had Anthony on the show, and he's talked at length. That I think is really what American darts needs. Is it needs somebody who is on television on a big stage at the most famous stage in darts, winning darts matches. The fact that can then be shared around that continent is huge. So I think the opportunities continue to increase, certainly in a bigger field, depending on who they can get over there. There is that risk, isn't there, that we have what we've seen a lot of from the North American players is often not being represented by their best players, and there is a risk, that somebody turns up and has a good day and wins a spot, and they might not be the best person. They might not be the best person that could have come and represented that system. But darts is darts, and you have to win matches to win prizes. So, whoever gets there will get the opportunity. But I'm interested to see who it'll be.
Yeah, Johnny. Yes, I asked the question, and I was told yes, they were given permission to play on the stream boards in Orlando, mate. So yeah, that was that one. But yeah, really enjoyed again the coverage of the CDC, the 5 boards across different platforms and so on. I really enjoyed it. I just think the way they put it together is really good with those. But you don't miss any of the action. No,
it's very good, isn't it?
Which is just absolutely mint. Now, big, obviously, times coming up here where Pro Tour today, Jeffrey de Graaf, good win.
Really good win
for him. Pro Tour tomorrow. Then we've
got, before we go to tomorrow, can we just we can stick around on today a little bit, can we?
Yeah.
No, it's only because I just think it's worth noting that, like, Jeffrey de Graaf, protect Rogue Winner. We know he's got a great game in him, but Rogue Winner. But I think it's just worth pointing a few bits, like an 8-7 win, deciding leg win over a Stephen Bunting who averaged over 106. Like, that's how you're going to win. That is some way to get the job done. So I think that it was worth a little shout out, I think, for Jeffrey de Graaf, not only winning, but playing some absolutely superb darts. Stephen Bunting, like, he's done everything he can to win that one. He's averaged 106 twice in a row, semi-finals and final. And Jeffrey de Graaf has found a way to edge him out in the deciding leg. But I think we got some interesting. I'll go with quarterfinalists. I think the quarterfinal lineup was really interesting today because, yes, obviously we saw the eventual, arguably surprise winner from outside the favourites in Jeffrey de Graaf, but I think there were some other names in there as well. If you sort of put Stephen Bunting and Ross Smith aside, that we haven't seen some amazing darts from of late. Rob Cross, we saw some absolutely superb stuff from. Averaging 102 and somehow getting beat 6-1. I don't know how that happens. But yeah, Rob Cross had a really good day, and we've not seen a lot of great days on the dartboard for him lately. Alan Suter as well, getting through to a quarter-final. Scott Williams making a semi-final. We know it doesn't feel like a very long time since Scott Williams made a semi-final of a world championship. But he's been lacking of late. Like, he hasn't been able to back that up with consistent performances. So just a few highlights. I think there's a few players will have taken quite a bit from a a good run. As we said earlier, going into what is a stacked calendar of lots and lots of events. So, a good time for players like Suter, Williams. Rob Cross may be a bit different because we know he's the level of player that he is, but he's certainly been lacking wins of late, and he's got a few on the board today.
Yeah, also, Michael Van Gogh making his first return to the Oki since the match play. There was a lot to like. Watching the bits that I saw, there was another new set of darts, which looked quite nice. Early on, the scoring was very, very good, and his doubling was horrific. He's ended up losing to Scott Williams with a 1-0, nearly a 108 average, when again he had opportunities in there. The scoring was really good, and he averaged. There was one game, I think he averaged 91, and his doubling, I don't mind saying this, mine's better. and he still averaged 91. And it was like, how is his average this high when the doubling was an absolute disaster?
Doesn't make sense, does it? Doesn't make sense.
Another new shirt. I liked an all black one, which I thought was very, very, very.
More for it. More dart shirts, like I say, more dart shirts. Still, we'll have. The problem is we haven't got. We've sort of done the bit where we've got nothing to talk about. What we need to revisit in the coming weeks is the discussion again about home and away shirts. I don't want a shirt clash. I don't want to see Clayton and Cullen playing each other, both in black and red. Like
there are too many red and black shirts.
Yeah, and we need to start having home and away shirts in darts. 100% needs to happen. And you can invert them. Michael Van Gerwen can have green with black bits and black with green bits. You can do a bit of that, but we need to start having home and away shirts.
No, do you not want some ultimate shitehousery where you come up with a yellow shirt just because you're playing Dave Chisnell, so we'll have to change?
Oh yeah, if you're the home player, yeah. That's
right. Some ultimate shitehousery.
If you were going to do home and away shirts, you'd have to do it. It'd literally have to be like the beginning of the year. You'd have to do it like for the season, wouldn't you? You have to say, right, after the World Championships, you submit your shirt. Now, can you imagine Can you imagine how much the manufacturers would not like that? Like, by the way, everybody's new shirt comes out the same week after Christmas when everyone's fucking skinned. Like, everyone's shirt has to come out that week. No surprise announcements, nothing else. Through the rest
no launches.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's all there. You can't have a shirt for the rest of the year, home or away.
Oh, I'd love some shitehousery like that. How we doing, Dale? Hope you are good. Hope you are good, buddy. Good to have you in as always. But yeah, no, I'm up for that. But yeah, Pro Tour today, obviously. Again, Pro Tour tomorrow, then qualifier for the World Series final. Then a day off, then straight to a Euro Tour. For terms of people's rankings and whatever, this is a big month because there's something on every weekend, and so on. That this is a real pivotal month for the players, I feel.
Huge month. Like we were talking about this morning, weren't we? But just about the amount of events there is close together. And it's very, very good if you can pick up some momentum. And winning's a habit. And especially if you can start to get that form and start to feel confident going into these events. You can also pick up a lot of money quite quickly. If you can have a good run in 3 or 4 of these events, all of a sudden you can see yourself climbing up. It's over the next few months or the next few weeks, really. But I think we'll see solidified places in Minehead for a lot of players. That's when we'll start to be a lot clearer about who's going to be in Minehead, who's going to get there. But the opportunity is still there for everybody at the minute. And in a few weeks' time, you can have it sealed up if you can find a little bit of form. And then again, if you can get there, also if you can pick that form up, we're going into the time of year with a lot of televised darts, a lot of big checks to be collected. If you can arrive with a bit of form, because there's an awful lot of players at the minute, even at the top end of the game, whose form is not quite where it wants to be. So anyone that can get a bit at the minute has got a chance.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think there's lots of question marks around people in rankings. If you look at the top end of the order of merit at the moment, that Luke Humphrey's not played here today or this week, do I expect Luke now to get better the back end of the year? 100%. We know what the nuke is like. Van Gerwen, I'm interested to see how he progresses the back end of the year. There were some decent signs today, but I'm interesting. I thought Stephen Bunting played well today, but again, on TV, I don't think he's played particularly well of late. He's been okay, but he's not been the Stephen Bunting that perhaps we were expecting. James Wade has had a very, very good match play. Can he?
I think that the next few months I genuinely find it fascinating. Like I find it genuinely interesting because he played so well at the match play, so well, and we've seen some brilliant performances from him in the first half of the year. If he can carry that through to the second half of the year, then he's fucking dangerous, mate. Dangerous.
Yeah. Josh Rock didn't play today, buddy. Dobie, again, not playing in this. He's at a holiday. Johnny Clayton, there or thereabouts. Gezi, that's on the... But the interesting bit that I'm looking at is other... I take more of a look at the tour card race, where people are with all their money stripped back off, and look, I fully understand that there is money to add to this and so on, but this, look, Humphreys and Littler, barring a surprise, will be 1 and 2 in the world for the foreseeable.
Yes, you would imagine so, wouldn't you?
MVG, it's an interesting time for him. But again, where's he going to be? Even if he loses first round of everything at the moment, he's got $100,000 gap, and I get that can be evaporated at the Worlds. Johnny is etching in on Stephen Bunting, where there's under 20 grand between 4 and 5.
And that's very easily turned over in the next couple of months. There's so much money on offer and there's so many events coming up at the level that those two play at. That's very easily spun. That could easily be double to 40 grand or wiped out completely, couldn't it?
Well, and then again, James Wade is
5 behind.
5 grand behind.
Yeah,
Clayton.
Again, half a good day there, isn't it? Like really half a good day for those lads.
Correct. Then Josh Rock around 50 grand off of Wade. That's one good run on TV. Dobie about the same. Ross Smith about the same. Gary Anderson, I say only, he's 100 grand off of 4th. That's a world quarterfinal all of a sudden.
Yeah, and again, you wouldn't be stunned with shock and surprise if Gary Anderson made a world quarterfinal, would you?
No, but then saying that, then you look at it from Price in 15th to Anderson in 10th, there's 20 grand. So for once, the rankings are actually, apart from the top 2, everyone else, there are mini battles to be had between now and January the 4th when these get updated properly. There is a lot on the line for people. Like Aspinall down in 22, but he's only 50 grand off of the 16 again. Again, it's one good run on TV or a good run at the Worlds.
Sorry, mate. Just got a little alert on the screen.
Oh, they equalised.
Yeah, we've played 40 minutes with 10 men, haven't we? Had 2 players taken off injured, but
to be fair, the red card is right.
I've not seen it. I've been focusing entirely on this. I've literally, if it hasn't been featured on BBC Sports text commentary, I don't know about it.
It's not a good tackle, to be fair.
No, it's all you want, isn't it? Like, I think we've had 3 first 11 players carted off injured and 1 3-match ban. That's fucking brilliant, isn't it? Especially for a team that can't actually make a signing. That's delightful. That's exactly what you need. But if we can maintain an unbeaten record, I'll take that. Considering we played Villa, opening up against Villa and Liverpool, not getting beaten either of those games, I'll take that. I'll take that all day long.
Rob says, why is Dimmy allowed to play the Eastern Youth qualifier for this? So the tour card holders are each allowed to play 1 qualifier, 1 home qualifier, so to speak. So he's picked that one. Dale says, I'm not being rude here or genuine question. Do you think Rock needs to be careful of the weight gain ECT? Not. By the way, this is just look, I'm a large lad as everyone knows. But yeah, look, the difference between Rock winning his tour card and now are significant. We've seen other players go the other way where Luke Humphreys lost all that weight. I think MVG looks so good now for the weight loss. Gezi has lost a load of timber and looking good for it. I do think, look, everyone laughs when we call these players athletes. But to play darts for 6 hours, you have to have a core and a base level of fitness. If you do not, you will get caught out.
Yeah, you'll run out of steam 100%.
Correct.
Like, as someone like I've been on a bit of a quest to get slightly healthier. And in that, I'm well, actually, several stone lighter than I was probably back around Easter time. Last pizza I had was in that room, Phil. That was the last time. That's how long I've been living the healthy lifestyle. The last pizza I ate, I was sat in that chair. But I can only just speak from experience that I feel like I have more energy and a bit more focus and generally, but often what you generally what I find is you don't really know that when you don't really notice that until you've changed it, if you like. At the time, when you feel that you are fine, you feel like this is how I feel. This is the amount of energy I have, and this is how tired I get, and this is it. And it is only when you make some changes that you then start to perhaps feel the benefit a little bit, and you think, oh, actually, this feels like this, and this feels like that, because you get out of bed in your skin every day, and you become very used to how life and the world feels to you. I don't think it's a concern, really. Obviously, his darts is going incredibly well. I think, and that's the only really view I want to take on it is one where it affects his darts performance, because I don't really want to get into a debate about his appearance. And it's not having an effect on his darts. If anything, his darts is fucking brilliant. It's superb. So yeah, interesting though. And I think, but I tell you what I do think is, like, darts is going to get bigger and bigger. The money is becoming higher and higher and higher, and we are going to see people in their quest for marginal gains. And I do think we are not a million miles away. We have seen the addition of sports psychologists come into darts. I don't think it is a million miles away from people using, cold therapy wands on their arm between matches backstage, and having a dietitian and doing this, that, and the other, and speaking to sports scientists and having a sports massage. No, like I think that, and I think that the more professional the game becomes, and the more people like that come on the periphery, you will find that the base level of general health amongst all the players will increase.
No, I completely agree. New ranking ladder needs to be created for the season with all the increased look, I'm interested to see how the rankings look and work, because I think they need work. As I think there is work. Look, the old ranking was great, but I don't. For me, the 2-year system is out of date. It's not needed anymore.
Go on.
It was created back in the day because there wasn't the strength in depth, and I understand that they needed to protect the players and so on, but they don't need that now because the standard is so good.
I have always been a proponent of the sort of 1.5 method, that you should, the ranking system's fine. I'm fine with the 2-year cycle, as long as you make a slight adjustment to it, which I think works very well and fits nicely, is that I think you should have 100% of everything in the last 12 months on your ranking and 50% of everything in the 12 months before that. So I would still have a 2-year cycle, but everything in the the year that's the furthest away would only count for half. Like that would be, I think that's the way to do it. So if you're carrying, £100,000 prize money winning an event 2 years ago, that's 50 grand on your ranking. And everything this year is current, because then I think it doesn't eradicate it. It doesn't. That 1 year, I think, could become fucking chaos. People just bouncing up and down, constantly boinging up and down and around. Makes the qualification really difficult for lots of things. Seeding's constantly going to change. But I think if you have that 2 year cycle, but you make the furthest money away that worth 50%, then you focus on current form. That remains at the front of everybody's mind. That's what I've always been a fan of that.
Yeah, I just don't think, like you say, the current thing, that something that you did 23 months ago should be having an impact on what you get now. That's my biggest bugbear with it, where it's like, hang on a minute, you did that 23 months ago. You're not the same player that you were when you did to get that. That should have no impact on what's going on now.
No, I just think I think the 1 year in an order of merit, the way that darts works, and the way that the prize money is allocated between events, tour events, and other things, 1 year would be a car crash. And I agree with you. Somebody carrying, Nathan Aspinall carrying huge amounts of money like he did into the match play, and all of a sudden losing that huge lump overnight off his ranking and dropping all that way is madness. But I think the only safe haven in between is that 50% year two.
Well, you look at it. Peter Wright at the moment is carrying, I think it's 125, I think, on his rankings from that European Championship 2 years ago, which he defends in a month's time or whatever it is. Right now, he is currently 16th because he is carrying that. Should he be there? Absolutely not. on current form, he is not 16. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I get you. Yeah, and that is 100%. And I think that that method of taking 50% off. I mean, what's he carrying at the minute for? Let's have a quick look. What's he carrying in year 2023? So he's carrying 191 grand. So with my system, we'd knock like 90 grand, 95 grand off that. And if you knock 95 grand off him where he is at the minute, where would that sit him in the world? That would sit him probably around mid-20s. Yeah, which is probably a fairer assessment, isn't it? Like, I do think, and I know we've took one example of that there, but I think if you apply that 50%, instead of him carrying that 190, he's carrying 90 grand less than that, which I think is fine. And it's just rough averages because it hasn't took into account the dates of all that money, but it's just a rough one.
Yeah.
To think, well, instead of being 16th, he'd be around there. And I think it's a fair reflection of where he is at the minute. It's never going to be exact, is it? It's never going to, it's never going to show you exactly how good anybody is, because you can have people play brilliant yesterday and crap today, can't you? Like it just is where it is. I think that's the way. I think that's the way through.
Yeah, I know, 100%. It'll be interesting. If you haven't yet, make sure you drop us a like and subscribe. We have loads of interviews in the back end waiting to go out. I will try and attack them tomorrow night and get them scheduled. But we will be back 1 o'clock tomorrow for the Pro Tour. It was good today, but we'll be back tomorrow. Loads of streaming action coming your way. I don't think we've missed anything, have we, Dan, before we wrap up?
No, I'm going to go and catch the last 3 minutes of added time, I think.
But look, we're not. Okay, look, I get everyone's got the hump, but with the seniors, look, embrace the fact it happened, not the fact it's finished. Smile because we saw them one last time, don't frown because we're not going to see them again.
Correct. That is 100% the approach to take.
For that period of time was great, and enjoy that memory of it.
Yeah, we're pretty much finished, so I'm not going to go into it in loads of detail. But I don't think, and I don't think it's so much an elephant pot. I think it's just some of it, unfortunately, is like it's just the way of the world. In that, I love the seniors. Like I went to virtually every seniors event towards the end, both working and just for fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but again, boring. But in the absence of a governing body, this was a promotional event that people ran as an exhibition. And let's be honest, it's a money-making promotional event. And if it doesn't make money, you can't run it. And I, if you are having to put tens of thousands of pounds into an event, unbelievable. Anyway, if you're having to put tens of thousands of pounds into an event to make it happen and you can't get it back, then you can't expect anybody to do that for very long. And I don't think there was any other way that anybody could have tried it. I think in terms of venues and locations and TV and personnel and the players that they brought, I don't think there's anything else that could have been done. But if it doesn't make commercial sense, you can't expect people to continue to throw their money out the window and lose money hand over fist.
And like you say, the other one,
because it's something we all enjoy seeing, and we do enjoy. I loved it, but I'm not prepared to stake it for 50 grand, so I can't expect anybody else to either. I can't, and that unfortunately it is what it is, and yes, it's not very nice, but it's just how the world works, isn't it?
And the other one as well in the comparison is, as a promotional company, the PDC didn't put a statement out when they cancelled Champion of Champions because the BBC didn't have any more money. It just disappeared. It's the way promotional companies work. You don't advertise bad news.
No, and I just think, as long as everybody who was due a refund has had a refund, and as I understand it, they have pretty timely, then that is pretty much what they owe in terms of what they're supposed to do. Yeah, like I say, I'm sad that it won't happen. I was really looking forward to the two events that I thought we were getting to this year, but it's not to be. And like I say, you can't expect people to have an endless pot of their money that they will continue to spend and not get back in order to keep people entertained. It just, the world don't work like that way, does it? I'm afraid.
100%. Right, everyone, remember, drop us a like and subscribe as always. Massively appreciate all the support. This will be available as an audio only in the morning, so it will be available from all good audio podcast providers. But we've been Online Darts. Remember, we go live 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. We will see you there.